Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I again welcome you all on behalf of the Tulsiramji Gaikwad Patil College of Engineering, Department of Mechanical Engineering. I Professor Vishwajit Ambade. Welcome you all for the another guest lecture series of AICT sponsored Prerna scheme. So as a expert today, we have with us a very young and dynamic expert faculty, Professor Vijay Shankar Kumbhar sir. He is a B in automobile engineering, ME in automobile, and sir is currently pursuing his PhD from Amravati University, Raisoni College of Engineering, Amravati University. Sir has a total more than 15 years of teaching experience. Sir is presently working as a lecturer, Department of Automobile Engineering, Government Polytechnic, Avsari from August 2021. And before that, sir has 5 years of teaching experience at Government Polytechnic, Nagpur. Sir also worked as an assistant professor at Department of Mechanical Engineering with Abhinav Education Society College of Engineering, Vadadi, Khandala, approved by SU Kolhapur. Sir had 4 years of experience of the Bharat Forge Limited as an engineer, means manufacturing engineer. Sir also worked as a professional trainer for Tata Institute of Social Science, Mumbai. Sir had secured second position in B Automobile Engineering, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Sir received the Best Paper Award in Second International Conference on Green Energy and Sustainable Development. Sir also awarded with the Best Performance Award in Outcome Based Pedagogy Approach for Effective Training, Learning and Accreditation organized by JD College of Engineering, Nagpur. Sir had published and presented more than 15 national and international journal papers. Sir had delivered more than 10 plus guest lecture in various institutions. Sir has authored three books. First one is Automobile Engineering, that is Principle and Practice for CRC Press, Taylor and Francis Group. Another book is Automobile Manufacturing Process, a case study approach, again for the CRC Press, Ross Taylor and Francis Group. And sir has published third book, that is Element in Vehicle Technology for second year BA stream students, that is for road transport, for Yashwantrao Chauhan Maharashtra Open University, Nagpur. Sir had filed two patented and two patents are in process. So welcome you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you.
I request today's expert, Professor Vijay Kumbhar sir, to proceed with the session.
Okay, thank you, Vishwajit Ambade sir, for such a nice introduction of me. And most of the study had been carried out by this student since they are started their gate preparation from when they are entered in third year also, from third year. So majority of the part of this machine design, today's topic machine design, majority of part you have been covered in your curriculum as well when you started your gate preparation. So time given for me for this particular topic and whatever the sub points to be covered in this particular 1 hour, it is very insufficient, I can say. So I'm going to take some overview of these particular subjects or whatever the topics assigned to me for this today's lecture. uh, I'm going to just brush up the things, whatever you have already prepared for this machine design, or you are more aware about whatever the things up to you have been learned in your third year as well as BE also. So I will try to cover all the things within a time specified by the organizer. So as we know that in this coming 1.5 hours, we are going to cover different types of different strain and stress, meaning of static load, modes of failure, factor of safety, then understanding the types of loading on machine elements, and all of those stresses, different theories of elastic failure, construction of yield surface and failure theories, design of simple parts, optimize design comparing different failure theories. And with this, we are going to cover design under static load as well as design under fluctuating load, then various types of joints, like bolted joint, weighted joint, and welded joint, and what are the factors associated with this, as well as how we going to design or whatever the parameters we are going to take while designing this particular bolted, riveted, as well as this, welded joints. Okay. While starting, you might be aware about this machine design. What is the definition of machine design? generally design is process is nothing but the whatever the idea in the mind of that particular designer to actual appearance of the product. This total travel of this process is called as the design process, and you might be aware of what that design process. It's a iterative process or innovative process. So there are certain type of iteration, and you have to while designing this particular any component or any machine element, and there will be specific procedure for general design as well as component design as well as machine design. Might be learned about this procedure in your earlier classes. So I'm going to, as I told, I'm going to just brush up the things. So you might be aware about stress and strain. What is this strength? Strength is a property of the material or a mechanical element. The strength of an element depends on the choice and processing of this material. Basically, the strength is nothing but the resistance to deformation. And you know that stress is a state of property at a specific point within a body, which is function of load, geometry, temperature, and manufacturing processes. You might be studied the definition of or book definition of this particular stress is the internal resistive force per unit area is nothing but this stress. If you might be learned that it's space as well as pressure is equal, but stress is induced inside the body as well as, and pressure is applied on the body. Due to the application of pressure, there will be stress induced. Stress induced and pressure can be applied. So, as you know that, in case of any machine element is intended to do specific function or in their service life. So as per application, we have to design that particular component. And we have to take various parameters associated with this while designing of that particular component. In some cases, what happens, whatever the stresses acting on element are very simple stresses, and you can calculate easily, or you can calculate whatever the stress developed at this particular any location of this component by considering that particular area, cross-sectional area of that particular element. But there are certain cases in such a cases what happen, we are unable to analyze exact stress condition because this element is subjected to different types of stresses simultaneously, and we can't able to judge how much quantity of this stress will generate. If you see the example of this particular condition, if you consider the propeller shaft of an automobile, in that there are various types of stresses acting on this particular element while transmitting this torque from gearbox output to the rear wheel of the vehicle. In case of this front engine rear wheel drive vehicle layout. So there may be various stresses developed at the time of braking, then cornering, etc. So we can't predict the failure of this particular component. So we have to, there are certain techniques to calculate, how to calculate or how to judge whatever the failure or prediction of this failure of that particular element. These we are going to study, and we going to study in this upcoming 1.5 hours. So if the induced stress is less than equal to the limiting material strength, then the design component is considered to be safe, and indication about the size of the component is obtained. Ultimate aim of any design element is that it must be efficient in operation and must be reliable during their service life. So whatever the calculated, we are going to calculate some stresses. So it must be within the that described limit of that particular component. So then and then we will going to say our design will be safe. So what we are going to exactly do is that there are certain elementary questions in the design. You might be aware that three questions are there, and this equation can be derived as the processes are there, and according to these various types of loading conditions, these equations can be reconstructed, and after that you can calculate various types of failure criteria. And by considering this failure criteria, you can calculate whatever the stresses develop, and as the strength is considered, and whatever the approximity is given for that particular element. So you have to just calculate particular stresses and calculate the stresses. So calculated stresses must be less than that specified stresses. Then and then we have to say that your design will be safe. So this is what the basic idea of any design, of any element related to this machine. So we shall use the capital letter S due to the strength, the Greek letter sigma and tau to designate the normal and shear stress respectively. Next is a design for static load. We are going to study the design for static load as well as design for uh, fluctuating. You might be aware about the static load. This static load is nothing but the load which magnitude does not change with respect to time. With respect to time, magnitude and direction. We can say magnitude or direction does not change with respect to time. So again, one characteristics of this load is that which is gradually applied to the mechanical element, gradually applied to the mechanical element. The static. That is what whatever the load applied on this any component, it will remain as it is. It will remain as it is after or we can check it with its magnitude. It will be same as initially applied. Okay. So strength and modes of failure. Basically, what happened? Uh, the primary consideration designing of any component is to make the strong enough so that we will not fail in their service. Actual breaking of the component is no doubt the failure. However, in designing, we consider a broader perspective that an element is considered failed as it when it is unable to perform its functions satisfactorily due to one of the following modes. Basically, there are three modes, important modes through which any component may fail. One is a elastic elongation or deflection. Second is a general yielding, and third is a failure by breaking or fracture. Basically, in case of the general yielding, the ductile material is subjected to this general yielding process. So, in that particular condition, it may give some indication before its failure. It may give some indication, type of indication before its failure. You might be studied that stress curve for this particular ductile material. In that, you might be studied plastic failure, plastic failure, then you very well aware about all the modes, whatever the bonds are described in the particular stress strain curve. So it will indicate. So the yielding will be there. Yielding will be there. So there are some indications that it will fail. But in case of this brittle failure, there will be not an indication. So failure by actual loading or fracture, it may subject to fail. That is in case of this brittle. And elastic elongation or deflection, in case of this column shaft, it is subjected to deflect whatever the more than that designed amount of deflection, then there will be. And another important factor, one is due to the gear, failure by gear. So gear, cams, rolling element and bearings. There may be friction with this particular element. There may be rolling. Here or you can say door. Hello? Hello?
कोणी सुरू
Hello. So there may be failure by wear also. So these are two important modes which any element or any machine component may subjected to fail. Next is you might be aware about this factor of safety, so as to provide some sort of what we can say strength, reserve strength for that particular material. So we are going to provide some sort of factor of safety. So factor of safety can be defined as failure load upon working load or service load, or it can be defined as a failure stress upon design stress or allowable stresses. So failure stress upon, you can say, in case of this static load for a brittle material, it can be design stress can be calculated as SUT divided by factor of safety, and for this ductile material, it can be calculated by SYT divided by factor of safety. So factor of safety is depends on various parameters. These parameters will be based on type of load, which types of load on that material is subjected to, other point load, UDL, UEL, etc., on which the chances of failure can be defined, and according to this, the factor of safety can be selected. After that, mechanical property of that particular material. After that, degree of reliability of the material, or reliability requirement of that material. After that, uh, calculation of these stresses, because as I told earlier, so simple stress, if suppose component is subjected to uh, any simple stress, so suppose shaft is there, this shaft is subjected to tensile load. So in that condition, we are we are going to easily calculate what exact stress developed at any location of that particular component. But when the component is subjected to different types of stresses, then it is very difficult to calculate the exact stress condition. Or sometimes what happens, the component having very intricate shape. So we can't able to calculate exact area which is subjected to that particular stress. So in that condition, we are unable to calculate exact stress will be developed in this particular element or this particular component. In that case, we have to provide higher factor of safety. Again, kind of environment in which this component is subjected to work. So this component is what some component is subjected to higher temperature conditions. So in that condition, we have to define. We have to select the higher factor of safety. Then have we taken the care of localizer stresses? So localizer stresses how we develop, and according to this, we have to select this particular uh, factor of safety. Then cost of the component is also important parameters. Then degree of testing, degree of frequency of testing. How much components during their processes can be checked. If suppose there is 100% checking or testing will be there, we can use a small or a lower factor of safety in that particular case. But testing frequency is higher, then we have to provide some higher factor of safety for that particular material. So this is most important part of the selection of factor of safety, and this factor of safety can be selected on the basis of some certain several guidelines or published literature. You can see these various parameters, and if the parameter is known or unknown, or one parameter is known or unknown, so from there that we can select that particular factor of safety. You can see here for factor of safety for ductile material in the range of whatever the parameters we know, then and then we are going to select that particular factor of safety. You can see in this particular area some parameters are unknown to us, so we are going to select a higher factor of safety for this particular conditions. Then these are the, as I told, there are some stress situations. So you can see stresses and simple load. Sigma T, this is what the tensile load. So you can easily calculate delta T is equal to PL upon A, which is the stress developed. And then you can say this PL upon A, whatever the strain developed in that particular component. Then you can see second case is subjected to compressive stress. The shaft is subjected to compressive stress, and you can calculate sigma C is equal to P divided by A, then delta C is equal to AL upon A. This is very simple equations from you can calculate stress or strain condition at that particular location. Then this was the shear stress, tau is equal to P by P. Then shear strain can be calculated as, and there is a relation between P and E. You can see A and E. This is a very important thing as you will get relations between this elastic constant. So capital E, that is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus m. Okay. Next is a bending stress. Sigma B is equal to MBY divided by I. So this is what the equation through which we can calculate the bending stress developed in this particular component. MBV is nothing but the bending moment. Y is the distance from this neutral layer, and I is a moment of inertia. And this solved some sort of examples in the case of the strength of material substance. Then this is what the torsional stress, tau is equal to MPR divided by J, and angle of twist MPL divided by JG, which is comes in a radian. While designing the shaft, particular shaft or propeller shaft, or you can say solid shaft or hollow shaft, you may require this particular formulas to calculate the cross-sectional area of that particular shaft, or you can calculate the twist, angle of twist, or you can calculate the torsional shear stress as per the various given data. Then this is what the eccentric loading. Eccentric loading. When certain term is subjected to eccentric loading, then whatever the direct stress can be calculated as P divided by A plus or minus P to E to Y divided by I. So if you see one example of this eccentric loading, a C frame subjected to a force of 50 kilonewton as shown in figure, it may made of a grey cast iron FG, taking factor of safety is 2.5, determine the dimensions of the section of the frame. So this is what the given condition, X is equal to 3, factor of safety is 2.5, load given is 15 kilonewton and thickness T. So first you have to calculate the allowable stresses, that is sigma, and this is what the cast iron. So we can calculate the allowable stresses. 300 divided by 2.5 will give the 120 Newton per mm square. So whatever the stress actually calculated must be within the limit or less than 120. So from this we can calculate the direct stresses by using the formula P divided by A. So 15,000 divided by 5 T square. So it will be 3,000 divided by T square. So maximum stress developed due to this moment can be calculated as P divided by Z. So from this equation, by simplification, we get the value for T is equal to 15.5 mm. Such a types of simple problems you have to solve during this examination. So in case of this design, this you can see this tau is equal to P divided by A. Then sigma B is equal to MBY divided by AI, and tau is equal to MPR divided by Z. These are the elementary equations of the design. Elementary equations of the design. All the equations related to this machine design that can be derived from this particular three equations. So these three equations are called as the fundamentals or fundamental equations of the design. Then this is what the principal stresses and mode circle. You are well aware of this about this formula. The sigma 1 and sigma 2 are called as a principal stress condition, and you might be studying this elements subjected to single force. Then there are two force condition and three force condition. That is, one is acting on x direction, another x and y direction, x and y and z direction. Then you might be calculated about this various stresses condition. In case you can see the planes on which the principal stresses act are called as the principal planes, and it may be observed that shear stress is 0 on this plane. This is most important thing is that you may ask shear stress at principal plane. It must be zero. You might you keep remember. So shear stress is 0 on this particular plane. So how to draw this Mohr circle diagram? You can see here sigma 1 is equal to sigma x plus sigma y divided by 2 plus or minus, then sigma x minus sigma y divided by 2 bracket square plus tau xy bracket square. So this is the two stress axial condition. So this is what the principal plane. At which this principal stress acting perpendicular to this particular plane, and you can see this is a Mohr circle drawn. So as you can see the value of sigma 1, then this is what the sigma 1, then sigma 2 will be there. Okay, so you have to give an sigma x and sigma y. So if you take this particular point, from this you can draw take suitable scale and draw this particular line having dimension sigma x. Then you can take the sigma y again on this particular dimension. So and after that this is what the sigma x and sigma y. So whatever the you can see from this particular point, draw one vertical line. So this will be your sigma x, and from this particular action from center by the center point, it will be tau xy. This is what this case is developed in this particular line. So from this mode circle diagram, you can easily find out this sigma 1 and sigma 2 as well as this power tau xy. So this is what the combined bending and torsional condition. Consider a cylindrical element subjected to bending moment as well as torsion leading to a two-dimensional stress condition. Two-dimensional stress condition, you can see in this particular condition, two-dimensional stress condition in India. So it may be subjected to both the bending as well as the torsional stress. So you may notice that both the bending stress and torsional stress has a linear distribution. The maximum being at the outermost fiber with the neutral axis. In such a case, you can calculate principal stresses at the base. Okay. So if you consider only bending moment diagram, then and then when at the outermost fiber, top of this particular fiber located at the top position is subjected to maximum tension, while whatever the fiber is located at lowermost position is subjected to maximum compression. And there is one layer which is called as a neutral layer on which there is no stress condition. So in this combined stress activation condition, we have to calculate principal stresses at first. You can see at this is of the neutral axis, and there will be no any stress. There will not be any stress. Okay. So from this equation, from this given condition, you can calculate the mode circle as shown in figure. So we will get the whatever the value tau x y from this particular diagram. Then this is what the stress variation throughout the prismatic, how it may be subjected to distribute, how this particular stress is being distributed, shear stress distribution and bending stress distribution might be calculated in case of these shear bending stresses and shear stresses. Then this is what the stress trajectory. This is what the stress trajectory, how this particular beam is subjected to stress condition. This is what the simply supported beam. This is the P magnitude of this force particular location is P, and these are the P by 2 reactions. You can see these are what the stress trajectory. Then theories of failure. Next one is the theories of failure. In theories of failure, most of the machine elements subjected to several types of force simultaneously. So in order to design such a component, it will be ideal to load a few test pieces to similar force simultaneously and determine failure forces and design accordingly. Okay. So practically such an approach will be very expensive and time consuming. Therefore, several theories of this failure has been proposed to relate the failure under two or more three-dimensional stresses with the mechanical property under the tensile stress. Okay. So we can't predict the failure of any component when this component is subjected to several types of loads, several types of forces simultaneously. In that condition, we are going to predict the failure of this particular condition by considering similar conditions in case of this by using this tensile. So there are different types of theories: maximum principal theories, principal or normal stress theory, then maximum shear stress theory, the maximum strain energy theory, maximum principal strain energy theory, distortion energy theory. So you might be asked in this particular GATE exam, maximum principal theory is also known as. So there may be Rankine theory. Maximum principal theory is a Rankine theory. The maximum shear stress theory is a Coulomb or Gus theory. Then maximum strain energy theory, Beltrami has theory, maximum principal stress theory, Saint-Manin theory, distortion energy theory, Holmes theory. So you must be know about this another name of this particular theories of failure. So it will be very beneficial. So in case of this maximum principal stress theory, according to this theory, maximum principal stress or failure of any component occurs whenever the largest principal stress in a component exceeds the strength of that material, tensile or compression stress. Okay, material will fail when and when the largest principal stress in the component exceeds the strength of the material in the tensile or compression stress. So sigma 1 is equal to SYT. If the yielding is the criteria of failure, then failure will occur whenever sigma V1 is equal to SYT or sigma 3 is equal to SYC. In case of this ductile material, SYT is equal to SYC is equal to SY. At this particular condition, the component will fail. But in case of this, for brittle materials, failure will occur whenever a sigma 1 is equal to SUP or sigma 3 is equal to SUC. But what happens in practice, when tau is equal to only 58% of SY, then there will be failure of this particular because of this brittle. So this theory is rarely used because of this brittle material, principal stress theory. Then you can see this is what the yield surface corresponding to maximum principal stress theory. So this is what the plus sigma y. So this is what the safe region on this in which we have to design that particular component. Second is a maximum shear stress theory. So according to maximum shear stress theory, failure occurs whenever the maximum shear stress component exceeds the shear strength of that material at the point of yielding. At the point of yielding. Okay. So this theory is based on yield stress and hence it is applied to ductile material. This theory is applicable to the ductile material because it is subjected to yielding. So you see, you might be remember that yield point because of this stress of ductile material. Yield point. So it will be based on the yielding. So it will be applied only ductile material. Okay. The shear strength of this material half of the yield strength, tensile strength, SSY is equal to 0.65. Number of times you might be taken this relation to solve the various examples. So SSY is equal to 0.SYT, and you might be solved various types of problems related to this shear stress. So if you see three principal stresses, sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, and in the condition sigma 1 is greater than sigma 3, the maximum shear stress acting on these three mutually perpendicular planes. Just picturize there is a particular cube is subjected to one triaxial stress condition. In that particular case, tau 1 2 is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 2 divided by 2, and tau 2 to 3 is given as sigma 2 minus sigma 3 divided by 2, and tau 3 to 1 is equal to sigma 3 minus sigma 1 divided by 2. So in that case, tau max can be equated to largest of this particular three. Tau max is equal to SS5 is equal to SYT divided by 2 is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 2 divided by 2, etc. Then maximum shear stress. In that particular condition, in case of this maximum shear stress theory, there are three conditions. Either of the following three conditions were met, then and then material will fail by this shear. So sigma 1 minus sigma 2, again I am talking about this triaxial stress condition. Sigma 1 minus sigma 2 is equal to SYT, or sigma 2 minus sigma 3 is equal to again SYT, or sigma 3 minus sigma 1 again is equal to SYT. So in case of this compressive stress, SYC is assumed to be SYT with the above relation written as sigma 1 minus sigma 2 plus minus SYT, or sigma 2 minus sigma 3 is equal to plus minus SYT, or sigma 3 minus sigma 1 is equal to plus minus SYT. This is what the triaxial stress condition, and in case of this biaxial stress condition, that is only this component subject to stress along x direction and along y direction. Then you can write this equation as sigma 1 minus sigma 2 is equal to plus or minus SYT, or sigma 2 is equal to plus or minus SYT, or sigma 1 is equal to plus or minus SYT. Then and then your component will fail by using this. Okay, this is what the yield surface corresponding to maximum shear stress, and you can imagine the whatever the shape design area. If you see one example, a mild steel shaft of 4 cm diameter is subjected to bending moment is about 1,50,000 Newton centimeters, and torque T with the yield point of the steel tension is 20,000 Newton per centimeter square, and the maximum value of the torque without causing yielding of the shaft according to maximum principal stress theory and maximum shear stress theory. Okay, so data is given as a capital D is equal to 4 centimeter. That is the diameter of this particular shaft is a 4 centimeter, so 40 mm. Then bending moment is about 1,50,000 Newton per centimeter. That is 1.5 to the 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter. And Sy is equal to 20,000 Newton per centimeter square is equal to 200 megapascal. Okay. What we have to calculate? The maximum value of torque. Maximum value of the torque without causing the yielding of this that particular shaft by using the maximum principal stress theory and maximum shear stress theory. So while analyzing, we can calculate this particular modulus Z. Then it can be calculated by d cube by 32. So by putting these particular values in that equation, we get 6283 mm cube. Then divide we know about this ZP is equal to 2 into Z. It can be 12,566 mm square. Then sigma x is equal to bending moment divided by this modulus 1.5 into 10 raised to 6 divided by 6283. From this, we get the value 38.7 Newton per mm square. Then tau is equal to that is capital T divided by ZP. So from this equation, we get the value T into 79.58 into 10 raised to minus 6. Okay. So according to this maximum principal stress theory, when material is subject to defect, when the yield stress any that particular component is greater than whatever the stress developed greater than that particular value of S. So in that particular, you see whatever the stress developed in this particular component sigma x is greater than that of the whatever the allowable stress is. Then in that case, your material will fail. Okay, in according to this maximum principal stress. Now, by using this maximum shear stress theory, SSY is equal to 100 Newton per mm square. That is a SSY is equal to 0.5 into S. Okay. So it is less than 119.35 Newton per square. The shear stress due to movement alone. Hence, the shaft will fail due to movement. No torque can be supported. So either decrease or the movement of the shaft or increase the diameter m only and t is equal to 0, sigma is equal to 200. From this, you can calculate z is equal to m divided by sy. So it will give the 7,500 mm square. From this equation, we can calculate the value of the say 43. So for this 43 mm diameter, the design of this particular shaft will be safe according to this maximum principal stress as well as maximum stress. Then this is what the maximum strain energy theory. According to this theory, failure of the mechanical component subjected to biaxial or triaxial stress condition occurs when the strain energy per unit volume exceeds the strain energy per unit volume of the specimen under tensile stress. Okay. So there is a very big relationship, or we can say derivation for this particular maximum strain energy theory. Might be studying machine design or design of machine elements. This particular that particular derivation and how to calculate this particular safe zone for this maximum stress energy theory by considering triaxial stress condition. You might be studying that particular subject. Then maximum principal stress theory. This theory assumes that the failure occurs when the maximum strain for the complex state of the stress system becomes equal to the strain at the yield point in the tensile stress for the three-dimensional complex state of stress system. So you can see this is a sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, and the failure criteria, you can see failure criteria will become sigma 1 divided by E minus this tau sigma 2 divided by E minus tau sigma 3 divided by E equal to this tau y divided by E, yp divided by E. So this is what the failure criteria. Then as the distortion is concerned, this theory state that the failure of mechanical component subjected to biaxial or triaxial stress condition occurs strain energy of distortion per unit volume at any point of the component becomes to the strain energy of the distortion per unit volume in the standard specimen of the tension test when yielding strong. When yielding strong. Okay. So you might be calculated or you might be derived this particular condition while studying this measurement. Right? These are the region of safety. You can see from this graph selection of and use of this failure theory. You can see the various stresses, Four Mises and Tresca theories, then Rankine theories, then Saint-Venant theories, and that particular component, how we can select that particular component while selection, while designing of any component according to this material, cast iron, steel, copper, and aluminum. This is what the design under the static loading condition. Now, second one is the design against fluctuating load. So, fluctuating load, or you can say dynamic load. What is dynamic load? Dynamic load is nothing but the magnitude and direction of this particular load is changes according to with respect to time. With respect to time. Okay. So, we are going to see in the particular stress concentration factor. What is the non sensitivity? Types of fluctuating load, fatigue stress, then endurance limits and related different types of definitions. What is the fatigue, endurance limit stress, and all these things. So you can say, as I told, these are the sigma T is equal to P by A, sigma B is equal to MVy by I, and tau is equal to MTR divided by J. These are the fundamentals or elementary equations of this design process. So these assumptions, these three equations, when we are say elementary equations, or maybe correct equation, when we are going to see there must be homogeneous material of that particular component. There are certain types of assumptions, or there should not be discontinuity this particular element while designing. Okay, but what happens sometimes, as per application, there will be abruptness of the cross section of that particular material. Then there will be inhomogeneous part, heterogeneous composition of this particular component. So there will be a stress concentration at that particular location. So if there are discontinuous or abrupt changes in the cross-sectional area, these fundamental equations are not valid. These fundamental equations are not valid. Sudden rise in the magnitude of the stresses in the vicinity of the hole, then localized stresses are far greater. In that condition, these elementary equations are not working properly. So we have to provide to reduce this particular localized stress concentration on this any material or any component. We have to provide. We have to give some certain types of provision for this particular components. If you see the discontinuity of that particular component, if you see the case of this first, there is a location of bearing. So abrupt change in this cross section. So it may subject to concentration of stress. In second element, there will be the key. There will be a key slot. So due to this key slot, there will be chances of stress concentration. Again, then there certain types of threads will be there at this location also. There will be chances of generation of these stresses. Sometimes there are all for grooves are there. Then certain types of lines are there, shoulders are there. These are subjected to generate the discontinuity of stress concentration at that particular location. So we have to consider this stress concentration factor while designing this component. The stress concentration factor means what? The stress concentration factor can be defined as a localization of the high stresses due to irregularities present in the component and abrupt changes in the cross section. So irregularity means what? Whatever the composition may be there, due to this there will be chances of irregularity impurities in that particular element. So it will generate the localization of higher stresses at that particular location. And another is a abrupt changes in the cross section. So KT is the stress concentration factor, theoretical stress concentration factor, and it can be calculated as highest value of the actual stress near discontinuity to the nominal stress obtained by the elementary equations. So KT Kt is equal to maximum stress divided by nominal stress. Kt is equal to sigma max divided by sigma O, tau max divided by tau O. Okay. So maximum stress divided by nominal stress. From this equation, we can calculate the stress concentration factor. So this stress concentration factor can be determined by two methods. One is the theoretical methods, theory of elasticity, and FEA, finite element analysis. And second is experimental method, strain gauge method, photoelasticity techniques, brittle coating techniques, and grid method. From this, we can calculate this particular value of stress concentration factor. So causes of stress concentrations are variation in the property of that particular materials, load applications, then abrupt changes in the cross section, discontinuity in the component, and machining scratches. Okay. If you can see in this all causes, there will be changes in the particular cross section. It will be subjected to stress concentrated at that particular condition. So this is what the chart for the stress concentration factor for different geometry and the shape and conditions of the loading. Okay, this is for the plate with the transfer source in a tension or compression. So you can select as per the ratio, diameter ratio from this particular graph for this particular plate. So KT, we know that the maximum nominal stress concentration factor. So W minus D, this value we know that, and from this equation we can calculate, we can select this particular stress concentration factor from this particular plate with the transfer source, tension or compression. Likewise, you can see this concentration factor that plate with the shoulder fillet, tension or compression. From this graph, you can see the various graphs shown for various ratios by D by D. D by D is equal to 2.0, D by D is equal to 1.5, then D by D is equal to 1.2, D by D for 1.1, and this is what the R by D ratio, and this is what the stress concentration factor. From this graph, you can select, you know that the value of capital D as well as small d. From this graph, you can directly take the value of KT while designing any component. Then round shaft with the shoulder fillet in tension. तो यहाँ पे क्या है? At this particular location, there is the division of shoulder fillet. For this particular condition, the value of KT, that is stress concentration factor, will be different. Then this stress concentration factor round shaft with the shoulder fillet in the bending. You can again see the value of R by D, then value of KT. Then stress concentration factor with the shoulder or fillet torsion. So different loading condition you can see there is a different stress concentration factor, and while moving the dimension and dimension ratio of this particular dimensions, you can select the value for this KT, that is the stress concentration factor. So this whatever the chart shown, these are the based on the photoelastic studies of this particular model. Under static load, ductile material are not affected by stress concentration. When the stress in the vicinity or the discontinuity reaches the yield point, there is a plastic deformation resulting in a redistribution of the stresses. Therefore, KT is not used for the ductile material under static load. This is most important. KT is not it. That is, theoretical stress concentration factor is not used in case of this ductile material. When this ductile material is subjected to static loading, the effect is more severe in case of this brittle material due to inability of plastic deformation. There is no plastic deformation in case of this brittle material, and as I told earlier, that is in case of this ductile material, there are some types of indications of this failure. Like a yielding. This material is subjected to yield. Yielding means what? But there is change in the cross-sectional area. So it will we can easily predict the chances of failure of this particular material. So in case of this ductile material, theoretical stress concentration is not considered when this is subjected to static loading. Therefore, stress concentration factors are used for the components made of brittle material subjected to static loss. However, when the load is fluctuating, the endurance strength of this ductile material is greatly reduce stress concentration. This amount accounts for the use of stress concentration factor for the ductile material as well. Then theory of elasticity. This is the then methods for a reduction of stress concentration. You can see there is abrupt change, so we have to provide such types of fillet will be there. So you can see or you can observe whatever the stress lines, the flow will be there. Then providing notches will be at this particular location there will be fillet areas. You can see whatever the notches, additional notches will be there. Additional notches will be there. Then at this particular condition, fillet radius, this is what the undercut, this is called as the undercut, this is the notch. This is what the methods utilized to reduce the stress concentration. Again, in this case, you can see this is what the original component having the V notch, and you can reduce this particular by providing this multiple notches for this particular element so as to reduce this stress concentration. Again, you can provide these types of holes so as to reduce this particular stress condition. Again, otherwise you can remove undesirable material from this particular component so as to reduce this particular stress concentration effect. Okay, so the number of ways according to this element. So you can see in that the stress concentration because of this third person. Also, if there is a hole, then you can take additional holes having small diameter as compared to this particular intended hole. So there will be reduction stress. Then in case of this shaft, if suppose keyway is provided in this particular shaft. So there will be the provision of radius. There will be the provision of radius. And we can make this such types of additional holes so as to reduce the stress concentration from this particular shaft. Then you can see there are again various methods for this reduction of stress concentration. You can see undercutting, round fillet, undercutting, then grooves. Then you can see in this particular condition there is grooves are provided. Various techniques are utilized subjected to whatever components subject to stress concentration or certain types of fluctuating stresses. Then you have to provide some techniques to reduce the stress concentration and to enhance that life of that particular component. So you can observe various techniques has been utilized to reduce stress concentration. Avoid this particular sharp corners by putting fillets, etc. Then you can see such one example. And the maximum stress developed in a slipped shaft subject to twisting moment of 100 Newton as shown in figure. What will be the maximum stress developed if the bending moment is about 150 Newton is applied? So this is what the given condition, capital D and small d, and R is given, capital D. This is the fillet radius, the value of this fillet radius. Then small d is equal to 30 mm and capital D is equal to 40 mm, and this shaft is subject to twisting moment. So from this you can take the value for this particular value of value kt. So from this and from this we give value whatever given r by d is equal to 0.2 and capital D divided by capital small d is equal to from this you can calculate small r divided by small d is equal to 0.2 and capital D divided by small d is equal to 1.33 kt. So from this equation you can see 0.2 will be there, and from this that particular condition value of kt is equal to 1.2. So by putting this particular value in this equation we get the value of tau max is equal to 23.20. Again you can see this is subjected to torsional moment. Again this shaft is subjected to bending moment. This shaft is subjected to bending moment. Again value of small r divided by small d is equal to 0.2. Again you can take the value of this kt, that is the stress concentration factor. kt is equal to 1.4. By putting this value in this equation, it gives the sigma max, bending stress is developed in this particular condition of that shaft loading, we get sigma max is 78.13 megapascal. Okay, so you see the design for these fluctuating loads, the large number of mechanical components are subjected to loads that are not static but fluctuating or cyclic loads. Even the static load causes cyclic stress in a rotating shaft. Fluctuating stresses are also called as cyclic as they are repetitive when plotted against a time to time as an axis. The shape of repetitive stress time curve is not important, but the mean and amplitude of stresses. Okay. So ultimate and yield strength were used in the design of the static load. In the case of fluctuating loads, in addition to ultimate and yield strength, we shall need the strength of this material under fluctuating loads. It is called as the fatigue strength of the material, which must be lower than that of the ultimate on yield strength. Okay. So this is what the fatigue failure. So you can see in this particular condition, this is one type of wire. So uh, to as we told earlier or we discussed earlier, materials fail under the fluctuating stress and the stress applied to which is lower than the ultimate tensile stress. This is stress lower than the ultimate stress. Okay, sometimes even lower than the yield strength also. Magnitude of stress causing failure, fatigue failure decreases as the number of stress cycles increases. Okay, the phenomena of decreased resistance of the material to the fluctuating stress is the main characteristics of the fatigue failure. Fatigue failure. Okay, fatigue failure means what? Time delayed fracture under cyclic loading, which is called as a fatigue failure. Time delayed fracture failure under cyclic loading. Like shafts, connecting rods, gears, beams, ball bearings, etc. So it will depends on the whatever the number of cycles, mean stress, stress amplitude, corrosion, creep, etc. At that particular condition, this material will fail. So uh, static load failure and fatigue failure. In case of this failure under static load, the failure due to static load is can be illustrated by the simple tensor case. Load is gradually applied on this particular view, and we study the stress curve, and you may well aware about this fracture point of the right? But in case of this fluctuating load, fatigue failure begins with the crack of the sub point in the material. The crack are likely to be occur in the region of discontinuity, irregularity, internal cracks, effect in the material. These regions are subjected to stress concentration due to crack. The crack spreads due to fluctuating stresses until the cross section is subjected to reduce that the remaining portion is subjected to sudden fracture. So fatigue failure is a sudden and total. Total failure will be there and it is sudden failure. So in many applications, there will be you might be aware that 80% of the failure of these mechanical elements are due to this fatigue failure resulting from these fluctuating stresses. So you can see this is a stress time relationship. So A, we need the fluctuating stress with the high frequency. But then second is a non-sinusoidal fluctuating stresses. Then third also no sinusoidal fluctuating stresses. Then D is equal to nothing but the sinusoidal fluctuating stresses. Sigma A is nothing but the stress amplitude. Sigma mean, MIM, that is the minimum stress. Then sigma M is the mean stress. Sigma max is the maximum stress. Sigma max is the maximum stress. And time is a against time is on x-axis. So you can see in case of this sinusoidal fluctuating stresses, value sigma max, then sigma mean. In case of this repeated stress, the mean stress, that is a sigma minimum stress, is equal to 0. And in case of this completely inverse stress, sigma mean, MEA, that is the mean stress. This is most important. Sigma, when sigma in case of this cycle, sigma minimum is equal to, in case of completely reverse stresses, sigma mean is equal to 0. Then how to calculate this mean stress and stress amplitude? Mean stress can be calculated as sigma m is equal to 1/2 in bracket sigma max plus sigma min. Stress amplitude can be calculated as sigma A is equal to 1/2 sigma max minus sigma min. So from this equation we can calculate easily, that is a mean stress and stress amplitude. Then you can see these are the cyclic stress condition. Sigma A, that is the stress available. In case of this fluctuating stress, sigma max, sigma min, and sigma min are all the non-zero in case of this fluctuating stress. All the maximum stress will be there, minimum stress will be there, and min stress will be there. But in case of repeated cycles or repeated or pulsating stress, sigma max or sigma minimum, sigma max or sigma minimum is zero. And in case of reverse cycle, there will be mean stress, value of mean stress is zero. This is most important cases. There may be objective type of question gate exam on this particular conditions. So, but this was the particular estimation, cyclic loading and cyclic axial force. This is a well-known RR experience. It's experiment. So, I find out this one fatigue line of that particular component. You can see this is what the standard specimen. Standard specimen are mounted on this particular machine, and certain type of weight that can be given for this particular experimentation. Then there will be, you can see at this particular condition, at this A1, there will be zero stress. Then at this particular location, maximum compressive stress. At this particular condition, at this A2 point, there will be maximum tensile stress. And at this A3 condition, there will be no stress. That is A1 and initial condition. Initial condition at the point A1 and A3, there will be no stress. And at A4 condition, there will be maximum compressive stress. And at the A2, there will be minimum stress. Okay. Again, this after 90 degree, 80 degree, there will be a change in that particular points. Again, A1 goes to A4, A4 goes to A3, A3 goes to A2, and A2 goes to A1. So again, stress cycle will be changed. Okay. Stress cycle will be changed as in this particular diagram. And due to this, whatever the weight is attached at this particular experiment, this shaft may subject to bending moment can be calculated as divided by I. So there will be important terms associated with this around experiment. So one is a fatigue or endurance of the material. So it can be defined as the maximum amplitude of the completely reversed stress that the standard specimen can sustain for unlimited number of cycles without fatigue failure. This is called as the fatigue limit or endurance limit of this particular stress. Second is the since the fatigue test cannot be conducted for unlimited or infinite number of cycles. 10 raised to 6 cycles are sufficient to define that particular stress limit. And fatigue life is defined as the number of stress cycles that the material can sustain. That the standard specimen can complete during the test before the appearance of the first fatigue time. This is called the fatigue life, endurance limit, fatigue. These are the important terms. You can observe this is what the SN curve for this particular steel material. You can observe that endurance stress, and these are the failure point. These are the log graph. Again, low cycle fatigue and high cycle fatigue. In case of this high cycle fatigue, fatigue failure is any fatigue failure less than 1000 cycles, then this is called as low cycle fatigue. And any failure more than that of 1000, then this is called as the high cycle fatigue. Okay. The failure of stores on this truck wheels, sets to fatigue gears on shaft, missiles are the examples of low cycle fatigue. When failure in the spring, ball bearings, gears are the high cycle fatigues. Then fatigue stress concentration factor. Fatigue stress concentration factor. This is a KF. Endurance limit without stress concentration divided by endurance limit with the stress concentration. This can be calculated as KF. Again, this is a non sensitive defined as a degree to which the theoretical effect of stress concentration is actually reached, and you can calculate the value Q is equal to KF into sigma A minus sigma A. Then divided by KT into sigma A, where KF and KT are the fatigue stress concentration factor and theoretical stress concentration factor. Again, following conclusion can be drawn with the help of KF. We get the equation for KF is equal to 1 plus Q equal to KT minus 1. So when the materials has no sensitivity or no notches, then the Q is equal to 0. In that condition, KF is equal to 1. KF is equal to 1. And when the material is fully sensitive to notches, Q is equal to 1, then KF is equal to KT. In general, magnitude of non-sensitivity factor varies between the 0 and 1. This is an important thing. Nonsen sensitivity factor Q, which is varying into the range of 0 to 1. In case of dot, the designer should use Q is equal to 1 or K is equal to KT and design safe side. Okay. Again, this is a nonsense charge for reverse bending and reverse axial stresses condition. From this, you can calculate the value of Q. You can take the value of standard value of Q. Then approximate estimation of this interlength. There are various types of factors. 4 factors will be there, and SC is equal to K into QT into KC into KD to AC dash. So in that case, AC is the intense stress for a particular mechanical component subjected to reverse bending stresses, and AC dash is nothing but the endurance limit stress for the rotating wave specification subjected to reverse bending stress. And from this you can see Ka is nothing but the surface finish factor, Kb is nothing but the size factor, Kc is the reliability factor, Kd is the modifying factor to account for stress concentration. Okay, these are the most important factors, and you can take while designing. So this is what the relation between inverse limit and ultimate tensile stress. So for a particular steel condition, AC dash is 0.5 SUT. And for cast iron and cast steel, AC dash is 0.4 into SUT. For wrought aluminum alloys, AC dash is 0.4 into SUT. And for cast aluminum alloy, it is about AC dash is equal to 0.3 into SUT. Then this is what the surface finish factor. So endurance limit of this component is different from the endurance limit of the rotating beam specification due to number of factors. So because rotating beam specification has certain types of polish, or you can say there will be mirror polish. So the final polishing is carried out in the axial direction to the smooth without any circumference. This may the specimen almost be on the surface type. Surface finish factor for the cast iron parts is always taken. You can see from this particular graph, you can choose particular surface finish factor for the calculation of exact endurance limit stress. So you can see this graph is showing for machine and cold drawn condition. Again, this will be for hot room condition. Then this will be the porous condition. So from this equation, you can calculate that particular value of K, that is the surface finish factor. Then for this size factor value of KB can be calculated from this ratio, whatever the given for this particular values. So D is less than or equal to 7.5, then you can take the value of KB, that is the size factor 0.1. Because whatever the specimen used in this particular RRM experiment is having 7.5 mm diameter, and in the diameter in the range of 7.5 is less than diameter is less than or greater than 50. So that is why the diameter in the range of 7.5 and 50. There will be the value of size factor KB will be 0.85, and if the value of the diameter of this particular shaft is greater than 50, then you can take the value for KB is equal to 0.75. For axial loading condition, it will be 1. Then there will be reliability factor. The laboratory values of this stress are usually mean values. So you can see this is the reliability factor. On the percentage of reliability, you can choose the value of this reliability factor Kc. Then modifying stress concentration value factor, that is a Kd. The endurance limit is reduced due to the stress concentration. To apply the effect of stress concentration, the endurance limit can be reduced by the Kd or increased by the stress amplitude by K. So Q is equal to Kf minus 1 divided by Kt minus 1. So Kf is equal to 1 plus Q, Kt minus 1, and modified factor is equal to Kd is equal to 1 divided by Kf, 1 divided by Kf. From this equation, you can calculate the endurance limit stress, that is equal to Ka Kb into Kc into Kd into Ac dash. Then endurance stress for fluctuating torsional stresses. You can take SSC according to maximum shear stress theory. SSC is equal to 0.5 AC. According to distortion energy theory, it can be taken as SSC is equal to 0.577 AC. And when a component is subjected to axial fluctuating load, you can take it as a AC to A into 0.8 to AC. Then reverse cycle stress condition. design for finite and infinite life, design for finite life and infinite life. When components subjected to completely zero stress, there are two types of problems in case of this particular design. One is for infinite life and another one is finite life. So in case of this infinite life, there will be criteria of inverse limit stress will be criteria of failure for this infinite life. So it can be calculated as sigma is equal to SC divided by Fs and tau is equal to SSC divided by F. That is sigma h tau a is the stress amplitude in that particular component, and SC and AC dash will be corrected endurance limits in the reverse bending and torsion. Then this is for the design for finite life. You can see this curve for particular steel. Then this is what the cumulative damage theory, how we can calculate this number component when subjected to completely reverse stresses. Sigma 1 is equal to N1 cycles and sigma 2 for N2 cycles, then suppose sigma 3 stays for N3 cycles. From in that particular condition, we can use this cumulative damage theory. Then these are the Soderberg and Gerber line. So again, this is what the graphical representation of stress versus stress amplitude. Okay, so just you have to define this particular Gerber line. The parabolic curve joining AC on the ordinate and AC on the opposite side is called as Gerber line. Soderberg line is nothing but the straight line joining AC on the ordinate and SYT on the abscissa is called as Soderberg line. Again, Goodman line is nothing but a straight line joining AC on the ordinate and SUT on the abscissa is called as a Goodman line. You can observe the failure point in that particular line. So Gerber parabola fits the failure points at the test that the best possible way. That's why Goodman line is a more safe from the design consideration, and Soderberg line is a more conservative failure criteria. Soderberg line is a more conservative criteria. There may be question which line or which parabola is more safe for the design consideration. So you can write Goodman line is a more safe for these design considerations. Then this is what the modified Goodman line. In some components subjected to fluctuating stresses, there are design methods of modified Goodman diagram. For the purpose of design, problems are classified into two groups: components subject to fluctuating axial or bending stresses, components subjected to fluctuating torsional shear stresses. From this two conditions, you can observe if you draw the modified Goodman diagram. In that particular diagram, OABC is the safe region as a design point of view. Then this was the modified diagram for this torsional shear stress, and this diagram is for the bending, axial and bending for the torsional stress. In that particular condition, also, the region OABC, is the region for safety. Then this is what the fatigue design under confined stresses. The problems involving combinations of stresses are solved by the distortion theory of failure. So you can observe this is what the equations for this particular distortion failure theories according to number of stress conditions. Then impact stress. Impact is defined as a collision of one component in motion with the second component, which may be either in motion or rest. If you see summary of this particular loading condition: static load, axial or bending torsion, gradually applied load, axial stresses, bending stresses, torsion stresses. Then static load, there will be gradually applied load, and this can be solved with the help of stresses and theories of failure. Then there will be fluctuating stresses. In that case, sigma mean is equal to 0 by using SN curve. Then fluctuating load, reverse cyclic. In that case, sigma mean is equal to 0. We can solve SN curve by using finite life. And fluctuating reverse stress, the different stress level for the different cycles by the cumulative damage theories. That is, in that particular case, for n number of cycles, n1 number of cycles, there will be sigma 1 stress. For n2 number of cycles, there will be sigma 2 stress, and likewise. Again, in case of this fluctuating load, which is subjected to axial or bending or torsional, sigma is equal to 0, is not equal to 0, not 0. It can be solved with Goodman and Gerber modified diagram. In fluctuating stresses are concerned, combined stresses are concerned, sigma is not equal to 0, and sigma again not equal to 0. It can be solved with help of theory and modified Goodman diagram. Impact load suddenly applied by impact stresses calculate various stresses stress type of condition. So this is what the design of machine elements under the static loading and fluctuating. So second part is the types of various types of connections, riveted connection as well as bolted connection as well as welded connection. I'm not going to take too much details because theoretical parts. So you can see this is what the riveted joint, what the important elements or say important parts of that particular rivet. You might be aware of these types of joints, riveted joints, lap joints. Again, this is what the bird joint, and you can might be aware about this lap joint as well as bird joint. If you see, these are the two parameters are required to specify arrangement of the rivet. Riveted joint are as pitch, back pitch, diagonal pitch, margin, or marginal pitch. Pitch is nothing but the distance between two centers of the consecutive rivet in a single row. Back pitch is nothing but the shorter distance between the two successive rows in a multiple riveted joints. Again, diagonal pitch is nothing but the distance between the centers of the rivets in adjacent row of zigzag riveted joints. Again, margin or marginal pitch is the distance between the center of the rivet to the nearest edge of the plate. This can be denoted by M. Again, this pitch denoted by P. Then back pitch can be denoted by PB. Again, this diagonal pitch can be denoted by P. These are important parameters while take into consideration while designing this particular riveted joint. If you see this type of welded joint, you might be aware of different types of welded joints, But if you see the strength also indications of this particular welded joint, in case of this transverse fillet bed, you can see that throat thickness, leg or size of this weld can be reinforcement. This is what the DB is. DD is throat thickness. Again, AB is nothing but the leg length or size of bed. The minimum cross sectional will be BD, determined with throat thickness. T will be the thickness of the plate and size of the bed. L will be the length of the bed. Sigma is the allowance distance. Then throat thickness can be calculated as T sin 45 because you can see that particular the angle is provided in 45 degrees Celsius. Sorry, degree, 45 degree. So BD, that is H, is equal to T sin 45 degree. So it can be T divided by under root 2. Again, resisting throat area can be calculated as HL is equal to TL divided by under square 2. Then tensile strength of the joint, TL divided by square root 2 into sigma T for single billet, and 2TL divided by square root of 2 into sigma T, that is for double fillet. Again, if you see the parallel fillet weld, again same equations will be there. Resisting this throat area, TL divided by square root 2, square root of 2, then shear strength of the joint, TL divided by root 2 into tau for a single fillet, and 2TL divided by root 2 into tau. This is very simple equations. You might be know about this. Again, this is what the bird joint, single V butt and double V butt joint. Then H1 with the throat thickness, H1 and H2. You can see H1 and value of H1 and H2. Throat thickness at the top and throat thickness at the bottom. Tensile strength of the joint can be calculated as TL into sigma T. Then tensile strength of the joint, H1 plus H2, TL into sigma T. In case of this double V joint, then fillet beds under the torsion in case of this torsion condition now is equal to T into small d divided by 2 divided by J. Again, capital J is equal to pi into T into D, capital D divided by 2 brackets, and tau is equal to T into D by 2 divided by pi T into D bracket D by 2 square, and can be simplified as 2T divided by pi into T into D square. The maximum value of shear stress occurs in the weld throat, the length of which is T by root 2. Therefore, T max is equal to 2 into capital T divided by uh, under root 2 divided by pi t into d square is equal to 2.83 t divided by pi t. So you can just remember or just try to remember standard equation for this particular fillet welds, parallel welds, single V weld and double V weld. Okay. Then bolted joints are concerned. Bolted joints are concerned. These are the, you can see these are the type of two threads, flat cluster threads, oval twisted threads, part compression thread, round or button head. Then again, this is the types of bolt threads, hexagonal, square, flat piston, oval piston, then a flat head, button head. Then these are the sets to semi-permanent fastener which hold the collar spools or gears on the shaft. You can see the different types of bolts. Top point, dock point, headlace, up-dock point, conical point, round point, oval point, square thread, then flat point, disco headlace, Allen headlace, etc. Then these are the V threads. V threads. These are generally used for the securing because they are do not shake loose due to this wedging action provided by the thread. So in case of these threads, square threads give a higher pitch, low friction. So you might be aware of different types of threads, V threads, American threads, viscose threads, त्याच्यानंतर ASME threads, square threads, Acme threads, etc. This is what the conventional square threads and conventional Acme. Then if you see the design of this bolted joint, so in that particular stresses in this screw fastening, so we have to calculate various sorts of stress estimation for this particular bolted connection. So you see the initial time load, tensile, whatever the tensile loads, tensile stresses acting due to stretching of the bolt, then torsional shear stress due to frictional resistances at the thread, shear stress across those threads, compressive or crushing stress on the threads, bending stress if the surface under the bolt head or nut are not perfectly normal to the bolt axis. Then there are certain types of loads developed in case of this bolted joint. So you can see this is the tensile. The initial tension in the bolt will be estimated by the empirical relation EL is equal to 284 D kilonewton, where nominal bolt diameter D is given in mm. The relation used for this mechanical joint leak. If leak grouping is not required, half of the above estimated load will be used. Okay. So, however, since the initial stress is the square of the diameter, sigma is equal to 284 D divided by pi by 4 D square. Bolt of smaller diameter such as M16 or MM may fail during the initial tightening. In such a cases, torque wrenches must be used to apply the known load. The torque wrenches is given by T is equal to C T1 into D, where C is the constant depending upon the coefficient of friction of this bending surface, and T is the tightening of load, and D is the bolt diameter. Again, second condition is the torsional shear stress. You might be aware of this equation, tau is equal to 16T divided by pi DC, where DC is a core diameter, and by considering this smaller friction, whatever the torque developed in this, you can see, you might be calculated for this particular threaded condition. P1 is equal to dW divided by 2 in bracket 1 plus mu pi d m to sec alpha divided by pi dm minus mu l to L sec alpha bracket complete plus P1 mu c d cm divided by 2, where dm and dcm are the mean thread diameter and mean collar diameter respectively, and the thread and collar respectively. Alpha is a semi-thread angle. You might be solved such types of examples in case of these types of bolted connection, types of threads. Then shear stress across the threads. This can be calculated as tau is equal to 3p divided by pi dc, where dc is the core diameter and d is the width, and n is the number of threads shearing the load. And crushing stress on these threads can be calculated as sigma c is equal to p divided by pi by 4 into d square minus dc square into n, and n is the number of threads. So if you see in this figure, the underside of this particular bolt is not parallel uh, as shown in figure. The bolt may subjected to bending, and the bending stress may be given as sigma is equal to xc divided by 2l, where x is the difference in the height at the extreme center of the bolt. Capital L is the length of the bolt. Bolt head shank is the Young's modulus. This is what the from my side. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So we'll take 5 to 10 minutes for the question hour session. If the students is having any question regarding this topic, they may ask their questions to the today's expert.
Okay, okay.
Hello, anyone is having any doubt or any question? You can ask by unmuting yourself, or you can put your question in the chat box also. Okay, I think, sir, there is no question from the student side. So
Okay, sir.
thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and sharing your time, valuable time with the students, and sharing your expertise in the area and knowledge with the students. Hoping that students will take a more benefit of this and will score the maximum marks in the upcoming GATE examination.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Have a
you
nice
for
day.
such a nice opportunity.